Hello again, sixth graders. Today we're going to do chapter 2. Turn to page 14. Here we have kind of the introduction to chapter 2, and let us revisit the purpose why we're reading. As we saw on Monday, why do the planets travel around our star, the sun? When were they born? Could people live on any other planet than Earth? So we'll read to find out the answers to those questions. Also, there's some really good graphics in this chapter. This is kind of a map, and it tells where all the planets are located. Here's another good graphic that shows the Earth's rotation. On page 16, you'll read about Mercury and Venus. Ray Bradbury should go on this page. On page 17, we're going to read about Earth and our moon, and you'll see that there's the phases of our moon. We just had a super pink moon last Tuesday. On this page, we'll read about Mars. Here we'll read about Jupiter and Saturn, and here's a question for you. Why is Saturn in the water? So we'll read to find the answer to that question. And then on this page, we'll read about Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. And in this caption, there's something unique about Uranus. And then we have the quiz with graphics, and you'll see that on the Google Forms. So here we go on chapter 2. Get to the right page here. Okay, here we go. The solar system is the name given to the sun and all the space bodies that move around it, from the 8 planets and their moons to asteroids and comets. These space bodies are all held in their orbits by the enormous pull of the sun's gravity. Without this, everything would spin away into outer space. The planets were formed from the leftovers of the nebula that gave birth to the sun. They aren't as big or as hot as stars, and they cannot make light of their own. They reflect the sun's light. Planets spin like tops as they orbit the sun. The time a planet takes to spin around once on its axis is called its period of rotation. The time it takes to travel around the sun is its orbital period. As the planets move through space, most are orbited in turn by spinning moons. Sometime after the sun was born, a huge spinning donut-shaped cloud of gas and dust took shape around it. The dust clumped together, forming the rocky planets. From the gas came the 4 giant gas planets, and we'll find out what those 4 are in a little bit. Mercury has been battered and bashed by so many asteroids, comets, and meteorites that its surface is scarred with craters. This small planet is the closest to the sun, and every day there is a heat wave with temperatures soaring as high as 800 degrees Fahrenheit. Mercury hasn't enough atmosphere to hold in heat, so nights drop to minus 290 degrees Fahrenheit, about 3 times as cold as the lowest temperature recorded on Earth. Mercury rotates slowly, once every 58 Earth days, 16 hours. Venus was the goddess of love in ancient Rome, but the planet named after her is far from lovely. Poisonous yellow clouds blanket its rocky surface, trapping the sun's heat and making Venus the hottest planet. Its temperature reaches 900 degrees Fahrenheit, even hotter than Mercury. Acid rain falls from the clouds and lightning flickers between them. There may also be active volcanoes in its high mountain ranges. Our home planet, Earth, has sparkling blue oceans and is wreathed in white clouds. It is the only planet to have oxygen, the gas that all animals need to breathe to stay alive, in its atmosphere, and it is just the right distance from the sun for it to be neither too hot nor too cold to support an amazing variety of plant and animal life. Our moon is an airless ball of rock. The sun only lights one half at a time. The other half is in darkness. And because the moon only spins once on its axis in the 27 Earth days, 7 hours it takes to travel around the Earth, we always see the same face. The moon appears to change its shape during its orbit because we see different parts of its sunlit half at different times. Wide plains, craters, and high mountain ranges make shadowy patterns on the face of the moon. People often think the patterns look like a face. Thus, the stories about the man on the moon. Mars. Mars is only half the size of the Earth. Imagine a desert world covered in red rocks and dunes under a pink dusty sky. One of Mars' volcanoes, Olympus Mons, is the tallest in the solar system, 3 times as high as Mount Everest on Earth. While the planet is seamed by huge gorges, all so far bigger than any on Earth, these make patterns on the surface of Mars which can be seen from Earth. Some astronomers used to think that the gorges were canal-like structures built by Martians, but space probes have yet to find any sign of life there. In case you don't know what a gorge is, it's kind of like a canyon with steep walls. Jupiter has a spotty face. Telescopes show a strange marking called the Great Red Spot, so big that 2 Earths could fit inside. It is a gigantic hurricane that has been raging for at least 300 years. Jupiter is the biggest planet in the solar system. It is 11 times the size of Earth and contains over 300 times as much material. At its center is a small rocky core, but the bulk of the planet is made up of hydrogen. Violet storm clouds swirl through its atmosphere, which is streaked by flashes of lightning. Jupiter may be a giant, but it is still the fastest spinner of all the planets, rotating once every 9 Earth hours, 55 minutes. Saturn. Saturn has the most moons, 18 at the last count, and many people think that its broad, glistening rings make it the most beautiful planet. Like its neighbor, Jupiter, Saturn is a gas giant with a small rocky core surrounded by hydrogen. It too has terrible storms and high winds. Although Saturn is the second largest planet, it is so light that it would actually float in water. There's the answer to our question. Why is Saturn in the water? Because it can float. The other 3 gas giants also have rings, but Saturn's are the brightest and most spectacular. They are made up of pieces of rock, ice, and dust. And that's what the magnifying glass is for. Uranus was the first planet to be discovered with a telescope in 1781. Space probes have shown us that it has 11 narrow rings and 15 moons. Its atmosphere is a blue-green blanket of methane gas with an ocean of hydrogen and a rocky core beneath it. Uranus has flipped. Most planets have a slightly tilted axis, but Uranus is on its side. At some point, it must have been tipped over, perhaps by a large asteroid. Neptune is too far away for astronomers to see it clearly from Earth, even through powerful telescopes. It was known to have 2 moons before 1989, when Voyager 2 revealed another 6. Pluto is a tiny frozen dwarf planet with a moon called Charon, which is half its size. Both are thought to be icy balls of rock and frozen methane. Pluto wasn't discovered until 1930, after years of scientific detective work. And that concludes Chapter 2. Here's your quiz with the graphics. Now you will proceed to Google Forms and actually take the quiz. Thank you for listening. Bye now.